going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. It is Friday here on this program. You know what that means? We got a lot to talk about heading into the weekend. And it's funny, I just realized right now, the moment I started doing this show, that I got all sorts of news here to talk about today. And I have a screaming child downstairs. And I just realized I didn't have a word in this about the Money in the Bank show, which is tomorrow. So it's funny. Money in the Bank, business-wise, in terms of attendance and gate, etc., I mean, it's doing huge. Secondary market ticket price, like $80 a ticket, which is the highest of any wrestling event right now. So, like, from that perspective, the show is big. But from the perspective of seemingly the viewers, certainly the listeners to this show and the people on our website, it's like nobody cares about this show. So very interesting, but we will give you the full lineup here today and talk about it and get your thoughts on all of the stories we're going to talk about today, including Jeff Hardy, who certainly did a thing. He pled not guilty. He pled not guilty to his recent DUI charge. I presume there must be some clerical explanation as to why he did this, but a .294 and a .291, legal limit's .08. You know, footage, there's footage from the police, and he entered rehab, but he pled not guilty. Anyway, I don't know. We got Dynamite, broke $1 million for Blood and Guts. We've got SmackDown coming up tonight. Bunch of notes on Forbidden Door. And, of course, in the second segment of the show, Dave Meltzer will join us to talk all of the news from the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So stick around. We'll be back in a moment to kick it off. Observer Live.
What's up, everyone? It's Denise Salcedo, and I am back with another commercial break. This time, here are highlights of my interview with Gail Kim. Take a look. You have an executive position in Impact Wrestling, and it's not every day. In fact, it's kind of unheard of.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. A lot of news to get into here today, including this. Jeff Hardy has pled not guilty to his recent DUI charge. According to PW Insider, Hardy filed a written plea of not guilty on June 28th. He is scheduled to be arraigned on July 5th in regard to his arrest for DUI in the morning of June 13th in Volusia County, Florida. Hardy is said to have entered a rehab facility on June 21st. So I guess he comes out of rehab for this arraignment, or what happens? Or maybe his lawyer just handles that. Been charged with 1 count each of driving under the influence of drugs, alcohol, which would be his third offense in 10 years, driving with a canceled, suspended, or revoked license, violating restrictions placed on a driver's license. Mark Ramondi added further details on Hardy's arrest. He left the car, was unsteady, smelled of alcohol. The officers learned he had been drinking. He could not complete any portion of sobriety exercises successfully, quote, or without risk of falling. They administered a breath test. First sample, 0.294. Second, 0.291. Legal limit is 0.08. So both of those over 3 times the legal limit. He has entered into rehab, yet he has pled not guilty. So sometimes you hear something like this and it's just like mind-blowing, and it turns out there's some clerical reason for whatever the plea is. I presume that has to be what's going on here, because there's a lot of evidence here, including him willingly entering rehab. It seems odd to plead not guilty, but I guess, as they say, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Plus, he's got a public history that the prosecution, depending on how hard they want to come after him and how big of a case they want this to be, could bring up and dredge up. But I agree with you. I look at this. I have no idea. I've never been in this situation, never will be in this situation, I hope. And it's got to be maybe they want to have him finish rehab first and then go into the trial, because there's no way he gets out of this with nothing. At the very least, he had a suspended license, did he not? So there's going to be ramifications that come from this. But I have a feeling it's got to be something where it's got to be some legal issue or something that may help him and benefit him, because he looks pretty guilty on paper to me. That's what the video showed for sure, but we'll see.
So yesterday, the Dynamite ratings came out. 1.023 million viewers on TBS, up 16.5% from the previous week. Best audience since March 23rd. Dynamite's 5th highest viewership to date since moving to TBS. 0.36, 18 to 49, up 17%. Number 1 on cable. 33% ahead of number 2 on cable. And was only beaten by 4 shows on the major broadcast networks. Highest 18 to 49 since April 20th. It was up across all demos, except females 12 to 34, which was down 5.6% from last week. Although I think it won the night in males or females 12 to 34. Biggest increase, males 12 to 34, up 30%. Biggest increase was with people over 50, up 16% from the same week in 2021, which was, by the way, the week that AEW returned to live touring. So a very, very good number, which caused a lot of people to lose their mind. And no, not me.
But in a good way or a bad way?
So yesterday, I apparently on my computer, I'm like 100 years old. So I tweeted out the ratings from my computer. Normally I tweet from my phone. So apparently on my computer, the settings are, for some reason, that nobody can respond unless, I don't know what the setting was, but so I actually...
Dave had been messing with this recently, haven't you?
Well, he's doing it on purpose. I wasn't. It was an accident. So for once in my life, I tweeted out the ratings, but nobody was allowed to comment. And I found out about this about 15 minutes later.
Conspiracy. Nah, don't you find out about nothing.
Well,
no,
hold on a second.
The heat.
Hold on a second, Mike. That doesn't even make sense for a conspiracy, because a conspiracy would be if the number were very low and I didn't allow comments. It makes no sense for me not to allow comments when it's high.
Well, when you're on the payroll like that, maybe you're just tired of the pushback that you get every time you post it up there, you know?
So then once I figured it out, it was like, well, we got to give the people what they want, as Excalibur would say. So I tweeted it again, and I allowed everybody to comment. And then I did a bunch of tweets, paid by Tony Khan, can't run the ropes, whatever. And then the weirdest thing is I started getting emails. I started getting people on Twitter and on the board thinking that I'd been hacked. I'm like, dude, I was just flabbergasted. And then everyone's like, oh, he's gloating, which, by the way, was one of my tweets that I was gloating, which, like, dude, sometimes I think that the people, I don't want to say anything bad about people.
Oh, man.
But man, oh man, bros, get with the program, you nerds. Come on.
I figured it out. You were scared. You were scared because you thought people would make fun of the number being too low. But then the response came out, and it's like, well, that's a pretty good number. The first one did 1.088 million people. So good, they're over 1 million. And once you did that, you realized it was okay to come out of your shell and from out of behind the hiding, from the arms of Tony Khan, who has probably hugged you on a cruise sometime. The same way he hugged Okada and the same way he hugged Claudio. And by the way, his name is Claudio, Brian. How do you say his name? Come on, say it.
What's funny is I don't know if I've ever actually been hugged by Tony Khan, but I do think the very first time I ever met Tony Khan, do you know what his first words to me were? I shouldn't say this because then Twitter's going to totally go nutty.
I love the newsletter.
He said, Super Chico!
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey.
You know what I told him?
People love calling you Chico,
I said, I hate that name.
Oh.
That was my first words to Tony Khan. No.
Damn.
But anyway.
And he still put you on the payroll.
That's the numbers. And listen, hey, the numbers are good. And, of course, everybody went crazy again because that's what we have to do. It was, it was a special show. I think Dave used the term hot-shotting, which
hot-shotting?
I'm going to have to ask him about that one. I don't think this was hot-shotting.
I don't believe so.
He tried to explain that, like, well, in the old days, if you did a bunch of blood and violence, that was considered hot-shotting. And to me, hot-shotting is like you're hot-shotting something.
Yeah.
And if you've got a show that you've built up for 5 weeks or whatever, and then you deliver what was advertised, I don't really think that's hot-shotting.
No.
Maybe I'm young and have a different definition, but this would be like saying that they hot-shotted WrestleMania. Because it was like a big special show that you only do once a year. But it's like Blood and Guts is at the same time every year. It was this time last year, right?
Yeah,
They promoted it for... But here's the other thing. Let's just say that, you want to use the excuse that, well, it was Blood and Guts, that's why the number was big. The number won't be as big next week. Well, you're right. It probably isn't going to be as big next week. But you guys recall that, like, there were a lot of shows lately where they had some big thing that was going on. Like, CM Punk is going to show up and he's got a big announcement and this and that. And none of those things did huge numbers. So, this was a good number. And obviously Blood and Guts was a big part of that. Probably Fallout from Forbidden Door was a big part of that. It's probably not going to be over 1 million next week. But this was certainly a very, very good number for a show that was promoted for a long time. And they delivered. So... good for them.
Yeah, I didn't look at it unless he says it's like a hotshot concept that they came up with at the last minute. But it's, I have a differing opinion the same way you do when it comes to the thought behind the whole thing. But you know what? We could always ask him about it when we come back from break.
I think I'm just going to ask him about the new Observer. Back in a moment,
Probably.
Observer Live.
Hear of an ex-female wrestler go in and take an executive position with a wrestling promotion. So I do kind of want to ask you about, what your role is within Impact Wrestling and what are some of those responsibilities, duties that you do for Impact?
Yeah, I mean, it was a natural progression for me because once I knew, I would say in my last couple of years of being a talent, it was, you become this veteran in the locker room. And so the girls really value your opinion. And so we always had producers and agents that guided us along the way. And it became in my last couple of years where the girls would ask the producer their feedback, and then they would ask me my feedback as well. It just happened naturally, and I love that. I love creativity in the ring. That's where my heart is in terms of matches and putting together these interesting, compelling matches, storylines, getting the fans emotion. And so, it was a running joke because Pat Kinney, Simon Diamond, used to be the girls' agent, like in my last couple of years, and he'd have these papers in his back pocket, and whenever he'd give us feedback, and then he'd go, "Here, Gail, since you want my job," right? He's like,
That's
"You can have my
amazing.
job in a couple of years once I get out," and we'd always laugh about it because we had a great relationship. And I mean, it eventually happened. And listen, I'm just so invested because I've been part of this division from day one. And I'm just like, now it's become, I'm like a proud mom because I don't have, I have stepgirls, but I don't have like little kids of my own. I have godchildren and nephews and all these things. But these girls are literally my heart in a sense, because when they accomplish things and they kill it, I'm having that high that I got as a talent for weeks on end, just as for them. I'm just like, it's so incredible. Like, I'm just so happy that you guys killed it. And it's a great feeling. So when it came to Slammiversary, I mean, this is probably our biggest pay-per-view to date, I would say, because it's such a huge momentous occasion, the 20th anniversary. And so there was no fighting for this. They just gave it to them because they believed in them and they knew that they could deliver. And, it's 5 former knockout world champions. I mean, I look at that graphic and I get goosebumps. I'm like, these girls are all so fierce and so competitive and so talented. I've already put the pressure on them to steal the show, but I have no doubt that they can. And I'm just so looking forward to it.
Back here on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. We are attempting to get Dave connected as we speak. So when I hear from him, I will let you know. So these things always happen to me. You know what I'm going to do? Mike, I'm going to call Dave on the phone. It's very exciting, isn't it, everybody? Watch this. Maybe you'll get to hear Dave's answering machine.
Hello?
Hey, let's just do the phone.
Okay, no problem.
All right, we're live, by the way, so here we go.
Okay.
All right, we got Dave here, everybody, and Mike as well. And newest issue of The Observer is on the front page of WrestlingObserver.com right now. We got a lot of stories in there. And the top story is about business for the Forbidden Door show, which ultimately appears to have done very well. Dave, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see because it was a very different audience, a lot more than most thought as compared to like Double or Nothing. But it looks like it did about 127,000 buys on pay-per-view, which is not like as high as the previous couple shows have done, but it was a 1 month build, as far as that, and it was a new show, and I mean, I think that most people considered that number well above expectations, so it was a good sign. Very heavily U.S. based, not as much European as the other shows, but I think a lot of that is Sunday's tougher for Europeans because of the it's like 1 to 5 a.m. or something during 1 to 6 a.m. 1 to 5 a.m. I believe. So when there's work the next day, so it's tougher. Where Saturday you can justify it better, but United States Sunday's a better pay-per-view night. So and the United States is where the majority of the orders come from. So they're going to take precedence.
So explain what you mean by a different audience from your normal AEW pay-per-view. More New Japan fan heavy?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it will be New Japan fans, but whatever it was, of the people who bought this pay-per-view, 61% bought Double or Nothing and 39% did not. So it was, for 39%, they're not people who bought the previous show. I don't know. I haven't checked to see if they had bought other shows, but it was more, I had thought it would be more like the same audience. And while, a lot of the audience is the same, a lot more of the audience is different than I thought it would be.
Dave, this may be a silly question, but I was kind of thinking leading into the pay-per-view, everybody, when it got to the pre-show, if you were going to buy this show, you were already sitting there tuned in and waiting to see it. The way the thing built up, it didn't feel like there were going to be too many stragglers on the fence at the last minute. But do we know, and is it measurable, how many people ordered the show, in the lead up? And is that a number that we can find out?
Everybody buys at the last minute, so it's like it doesn't really tell you anything. I mean, I saw like cable numbers like 2 days ahead, and it's nobody, because nobody buys on Thursday or Friday. Everyone buys on Sunday. I mean, that's just how it is. So there's really no way to measure like the effect of a good pregame show versus and what that means. There's no way to know.
So something we've actually not talked about at all on this particular show is Rocky Johnson's 6 kids?
8.
8?
Yeah.
8, but five new.
5 new children, yes.
Everybody knew about Dwayne, and everybody knew about the two kids from the first marriage, but the rest were new.
So what happened here? Tell the story.
I don't know. I mean, what essentially I think happened is that some of them found out, and then they contacted Jay, who's Ricky Johnson is the name that most people know him, Jay Bowles, who's Rocky's brother, who lives in Canada, and they're all Canadian. So it just was one of those things where they found him. Some did DNA tests, and it's been Greg Oliver is good friends with Ricky, so he's known about it and waited to do the story and interview the different people. It was really a fascinating story. I had no clue over about any of this basically. So yeah.
So this is a group of children in Canada.
Yes, in different parts of Canada. Depending on where Toronto, where he wrestled. Nova Scotia, where he wrestled and also grew up, and also Vancouver, where he worked before he came to Los Angeles and became a really big star. Although he was a star in Vancouver too. So it was like the different places he worked before coming to California, and that's where he met Atta, and him and Atta were together, for a long time, and then they split up later too. But Dwayne was like an only child, although he did have the 2 half brothers that I'm sure he knew about, but I don't know if he knew about the other ones. I'd never,
Okay, so these children were all conceived in places that he worked in Canada.
Yes.
But he also worked in a lot of other different places.
Yes, but that was also after Atta.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is not to say that we're not going to find somebody else where I have no idea.
Sure.
Yeah.
But conceivably, there's Rock's got a lot more brothers and sisters potentially out there.
I would think so, just because the idea that there's so many that we know about, and a lot of people don't get DNA tests and stuff. Because what happened is some of them just would, they didn't know who their father was. They got a DNA test, and all of a sudden it said, oh, you got this half brother, because other people were taking DNA tests that were part of the family, and and Ricky had a DNA test, so it led them to that. So if you were adopted or something, and your mother never told you that it was a pro wrestler or didn't know her,
and you looked like The Rock.
Yeah, well, some of
Isn't
them
that
look
what
like
one of the
Rock.
kids said? It was like people said I
Yeah.
look like The Rock.
People
Yeah,
kept
he looked a little
saying.
bit like The Rock, yeah. But if you're one of the daughters didn't really look like The Rock. The
Sure.
daughters, but I mean, yeah, conceivably there could be more.
Dave, you've had a good relationship and obviously have talked to Dwayne a lot. There have been lots of accusations. There's been lots of stories about his father over the years. And now there is this coming out, the autobiography, which was obviously a very controversial thing for several reasons, ended up being off the market. Does he reconcile this in the conversations you had with him? Is it just one of those things that he has to, obviously you got to shrug off and you keep going. He's got a lot going on in his life, but how does it affect him to your knowledge? And in the times you've spoken to him, how does he reconcile it?
I can't really answer that fairly because, I mean, I've talked to him and the subject comes up, but I've never had an in-depth discussion with him. I mean, obviously you can watch the TV show, which is kind of like his vision, where I think that he loves his father in his own way, and at the same time is not, he clearly knows his father was a con man and tries to make it, and made a lot of bad decisions. I mean, you watch the show and it's like Rocky Johnson isn't like portrayed like negatively, like he dislikes him, but you can see the heartbreak of certain things that Rocky Johnson did that weighed on him, over his life, looking when he looks back.
All right, so we got Money in the Bank tomorrow, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest, except unless you're buying tickets.
Well, I mean, the show sold out, and the secondary market's fairly strong. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's always the curiosity over who's going to win the two Money in the Bank matches. But the rest of the show, yeah, there's nothing. I mean, it's not one of those shows that grabs you. But in the Vegas market, it's it's doing okay. It is sold out, and without Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, it's the top guys, and so I mean that's a feather in their cap, I guess. But which the concept, I think that there's interest in who's going to win, and then what happens from there. Maybe more on the women's side than the men's side, only because. I think there's almost that feeling that nobody can win the men's title except for Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, whereas the women's titles, that they can bounce around.
Is it true that WWE is determined to make Logan Paul a babyface?
Oh, no.
I mean, we'll find out, but it's certainly, don't you think, from Raw on Monday where Miz cut the promo and everything? And I know originally when Logan Paul came in, the deal was, and that came from his side, not their side, that he had to be a babyface at the end. Like, he could come in as a heel, but when the story is over, he had to be a babyface. And, every time they try to make him a babyface, it backfires. Look, he was in Cleveland, his hometown, talking about, I went to high school here, I was, in the state wrestling meet. He did everything to get himself cheered in his hometown, and he got booed. So this guy this is like a Floyd Mayweather. If they really want to make him a babyface, it's going to be an uphill battle, and they'll probably, at some point, like they did the other times, they'll probably have to give up.
Dave,
Well,
Tyson
let me just say
Fury,
one thing. Let me say one thing real quick. So they did do that on Monday, but I mean, if he were going to be a heel and team with Miz, you'd have to do that same promo if you're putting them back together after WrestleMania.
I suppose, but it sure felt to me like he was going to work against the Miz.
Yes.
Maybe not right away, and maybe they'll do another split. But I certainly got the impression that him against the Miz is the long-term direction, and that would make him in theory a babyface. Although the last time him and Miz were had their little to-do, everybody cheered the Miz, if you remember.
Did Tyson Fury make a grandstand challenge to Jake Paul, or am I imagining this in the last week or so?
Wasn't that just for his brother?
Okay, was that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, it was for Tommy Fury. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I was wondering what was going on with all that sort of stuff.
Tyson Fury and Jake Paul is the most ridiculous match in the history of the world.
Well, I was like, I'm trying to figure out how you can get that in a WWE ring. That sounds perfect.
Oh, in a WWE ring, yeah. Maybe after he fights his brother, maybe they can do that. I think WWE would probably like to use Tyson Fury to get over one of their own, one of their full-timers, rather than just do pure celebrity. Although pure celebrity probably at a WrestleMania, if you did that, would be wacky enough to where it would get an incredible amount of attention. That match would get an incredible amount of
Well, actually, we got to head to a break. But thanks, Dave. We'll plug the Observer after the break. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
What's up, everyone? It's Denise Salcedo, and I am back with another commercial break. This time, here are highlights of my interview with Gail Kim. Take a look.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a roller coaster, but I feel like wrestling in general is a roller coaster, to be honest. And I've seen, like you said, many managements change and, who's in charge. And we've always kind of been this little underdog, right? And trying to prove to everyone that they were the best wrestling product on TV. And right now, we went through a little bit of a negative period where I think fans just wanted to hate us. And now we feel like it's really turned around. I get comments all the time from people. I respect their opinions, from fans to people in the business. You guys have the best product on TV right now. The storylines, the characters, the wrestlers have so much talent and everyone's being utilized. You really look at that roster.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive.
You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm trying to find something here.
Seem to be stressed out in between breaks as well, too.
Well, dude,
so chaos downstairs?
No, it's 200 degrees in this house is the problem.
Man.
Yeah.
Why so warm?
Because it's summer.
Well, you don't have air conditioning in that palace?
Well, I have air conditioning.
You have dual air conditioners. Do you not want
actually,
for upstairs?
I don't have dual. I wish I did. But downstairs is not hot enough for the air conditioning to come on. But this room... Bro, you want to see what's in this room? Well, you can't. But there's a lot of stuff that generates a lot of heat. Mm-hmm. Not the least of which is me. Now, if you go to my Twitter at Bryan Alvarez...
Yes?
Yes, our good friend Ryan Frederick, his best bud, Cooper, his dog Cooper, needs a surgery. And he's trying to raise some money. He's got a GoFundMe here. And actually, he's only $500 away right now. So if you got a couple of bucks laying around, if you go to at Bryan Alvarez on Twitter, I'm not really a dog guy, but when you see this dog,
yeah, really,
you and your money will soon be parted.
Oh, for a good reason, too.
Oh, it's Copper, not Cooper.
Copper, yeah.
Yeah.
It tore his ACL, and man, surgery is not cheap. And as anybody who's got a four-legged friend or any pet knows, it is hard. They're a member of your family. So I completely understand this. So.
Copper's a cute name, but for a GoFundMe, he should have said its name was Cooper.
Why?
Just a cuter name. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, Copper is he is in need of your assistance. So at Bryan Alvarez on Twitter, if you want to donate, maybe by the end of the show we could have his surgery paid off, and maybe a little bit extra for some doggy treats. We can reward
some doggy
him
ice cream after that. Absolutely.
I don't know if dogs can eat ice cream.
Well, they got the doggy ice cream. It's all made for them.
What is doggy ice cream?
Yeah,
no, I don't have dogs. What's a doggy ice cream?
They actually have ice cream that dogs can eat. And a lot of places, actually, there's a lot of ice cream places and creameries that are doing this, too, and having it. So when you walk up and, you have the dog with you and everything, the dog can have a treat as well.
Yeah, everyone seems to think that Copper's a cuter name.
Yeah, for a dog, sure.
This guy thinks Cooper might be his NXT name.
Yeah, they would absolutely change it if now that's the one thing you got to worry about with something like this. Maybe somebody donates so much. I wonder if they could talk Copper into being taken away from Ryan, and Triple H picks him up, and there's a picture of Copper posing with Triple H, and we'd change his name to, what would it be? Would it be Cooper?
Well, see, here's the thing also.
What would be a last name for a dog in NXT?
I don't even want to get into that with this dog, but I think the reason I think Cooper is a cuter name is because it trolls. You know that movie Trolls? Paisley loved that movie. And one of the characters was named Cooper, and she loved Cooper, and she had all these Cooper dolls all over the house.
Yeah.
So the name has a soft spot in my heart.
And if you're a big Cooper Cup fan,
as long as you name her Kid Cooper.
Saw him win the Super Bowl, you might be able to spread some of that same cheer that you had watching him win and pass it on to Ryan and help out with Copper.
We got some names here. Copper Fur Dog. That's a good one, actually.
Yeah, that's actually too good for NXT.
Cooper D. Paws. I like that one. Cooper D. Paws.
Cooper Paw, yeah.
I got to put the D in there.
Cooper
it's like
D.
Coco
Paws.
Beware.
Well, yeah.
Even though Dave refused to ever put that B in.
He did.
Of all things.
So did PWI. They didn't
D.
either.
Paws. What? Bro, if you're a wrestler, why would you choose the last name Ware if your middle name wasn't B? Right? So you should respect his name by calling him Coco Beware. That's what he wanted to be called.
That's what I say.
Exactly.
They'd be
You
hard.
take away that B, and it doesn't mean anything anymore.
The old days were different, Brian.
They were different. Okay. We got some more news here. I guess we should talk about Money in the Bank, huh?
Sure.
Well, first off, SmackDown is tonight. It is the go-home show. We've got 6 of the 7 participants in the women's Money in the Bank will be in action on SmackDown tonight. We've got Raquel, Lacey, and Shotzi versus Asuka, Alexa, and Liv Morgan. And, of course, Becky is the 7th participant. We've also got... Vince loves his stupid words. We've got a Money in the Bank cavalcade.
A cavalcade. That's one of my favorite words.
Seth, Drew, Sheamus, Omos, Sami Zayn, and Riddle.
Much like Great Balls of Fire, taking it back to the 50s with that one, like the Gillette Cavalcade of Sports at your Nickelodeon before the movie began.
And so there's still one, notwithstanding, one spot left in the Money in the Bank. So the lineup for the show, Bianca Belair versus Carmella for the Raw Women's title. Seth, Drew, Sheamus, Omos, Sammy, Riddle, and TBD for the men's Money in the Bank briefcase. Lacey, Alexa, Liv, Raquel, Asuka, Shotzi, Becky for the women's Money in the Bank. Ronda versus Natty for the SmackDown Women's title. The Usos versus the Street Profits for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, where the storyline is they just can't beat the Usos. That's a great storyline. That really makes me interested in this match. And Theory will be facing Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title.
You know, I talked about this with talking about the new look of Fabian Eichner, and I like it. I like actually the Giovanni Vinci presentation thus far. and he looks like he could be a star. We know he can work. But it also drives me nuts that they didn't take Imperium as a whole unit, bring them up to the main roster, because just like Otis and Gable, yeah, they're going to lose handicap matches to a top guy because that's what happens there. But to have them up as a tag team when you need tag teams, and they are so good at what they can do, and they can still be the heavies for Walter in the same way that the Usos are. I mean, other than the Street Profits, they would have been the third biggest tag team in the company, and I think you could have done a lot with them. And it's just amazing, and I've been saying this since 1990, whatever it is. Tag teams can be very, very valuable if you want them to be and you invest in them. It doesn't take much, and I get it. A heavyweight championship match is still always going to be the main event at the Tokyo Dome or WrestleMania or wherever, but you can invest in some of these feuds, have more teams going at it, and make it useful. I know that's a lot to ask for, but, you know, it is possible.
Somebody apparently wanted me to talk about this. Whenever people want me to talk about something, there's always an expectation.
Well, you usually don't like being told what to talk about.
I don't like being told what to talk about. Former NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai could be on the verge of becoming a free agent. In the latest edition of the Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported Io Shirai's contract with the WWE was set to expire next month if she doesn't sign a new deal. She has not signed WWE's newest contract offer. Meltzer notes that Shirai, quote, had told people in Japan that when her contract was up, she wanted to return to Japan and be closer with her family. So I'm not sure what the expectation is for me in this story right here. I suspect that the person who wanted me to address this is very, very angry about this.
Angry?
Yeah.
You believe?
Yeah, because he's mad that they don't do anything with Io Shirai. She's not going to the main roster. They've wasted... Well, listen, buddy. I don't know what he's mad about, but I mean, if that's what he's expecting from me.
Well, can I offer you a different hypothesis here?
You guys are asking for analysis.
Different theory?
Dude, what analysis do you want? She's stuck in NXT. They're not going to bring her up to the main roster. They've had opportunity after opportunity. She wants to go back to Japan. Good for her.
Do you think maybe
What analysis do you want? Hold on a second, Mike.
Oh, boy.
Bros, listen. You suffer.
You.
I'm looking for the word. You suffer because you want something that you're not going to get, okay? How long have we been watching WWE? How long has Vince McMahon been in charge? How long has this happened over and over and over and over again? I'm not mad at the person who wants me to talk about this, but I'm irritated. You guys want some in-depth analysis. Bro, it's been like this forever, okay? Vince, he doesn't get it. In Vince's mind, they've got Asuka. So what do we need Io Shirai for? That's what goes on in his mind. So why do people get angry about this? I don't get it. I'm happy for her if she wants to go back to Japan, be close to her family, and maybe go work a bunch of Stardom shows. Good for her! Right?
Did he type this in all caps or something?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, what you could maybe take from this is he's asking
Now I'm sweating even more in this hot room.
Because he's asking you about it, because this opens up a door if there is no, especially if there's no 30-day clause, or it's waived if she were to leave the country, that people aren't excited over the thought of her going back to a place where she was a star, a superstar, and the reason that WWE wanted to bring her over for that Mae Young gimmick in the first place is because imagine what she could do working with Kairi Sane, who just left from over there. Imagine her working with people that have now displaced her in Stardom. Your Tommy Hayashishidas, your Shuris, your people like that, your Julias. Can you imagine Julia and Io Shirai, how much attention you can get for that? So maybe they asked, so They could actually do the fantasy booking in their own minds on what could come next, not what has happened in the past. People are maybe looking at this as a big positive as opposed to the negative of the past.
Well, it is a big positive. Listen, if she were on the main roster, making main roster money and being featured, and she was happy living in Florida with her family, and by the way, I'm 100% talking about Asuka right here, that's one thing. But if you're working in NXT 2.0 and you're not making that kind of money, and you're working with people who don't know how to work, and you've been injured countless times, leave, which appears to be what she wants to do.
How long has she been there now?
Way too long.
Well, it's been since that Mae Young was 2017. It's been 5 years, 5 years
pounding
away
on this
from
desk.
5 years away from home. So
you want more analysis? Now people are asking not enough analysis. I got more analysis for you. If this were my company, which it's not.
It is not.
Okay?
No.
It was my company.
Yes.
And there's one of two things that's going to happen. Io Shirai is going to get paid a lot more money and go to the main roster where she will have good matches and entertain the fans.
That would be cool.
Or I'm going to pay her even more money to stay in NXT and try and teach these blokettes how to work. Okay?
Yeah.
But you know what you don't do?
What's that?
You don't keep her there trying to teach people how to work and pay her developmental money. She didn't sign up to be a coach.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's not my company. And neither of these things are going to happen. So, go home and be happy.
32 years old.
Hang out with your family.
32 years old. Been wrestling now for literally half of her life. Still got a lot more to give. So, yeah, would like to see her back in Stardom again for sure.
Hope that guy's happy. You accomplished your goal. You wound me up, and you stepped away. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
Okay, everyone's part of the show. It's incredible. And we really do just come together because we feel like the underdogs sometimes to produce. I mean, I think, in my opinion, 2022, we've been killing every pay-per-view consistently. So I feel like Slammiversary is going to be no different. I think everyone would think that it's an easy transition, and it was a natural progression, but I wouldn't say it was easy because being a wrestler in the ring is completely different from being a producer. And so at the beginning, it took a while for me to be able to like not want to jump through the screen to control everything. And, you know, I'm like, why can't I just do it like this? Or, you know, execute something, you know, that maybe they didn't get because I'm a perfectionist by nature. And I remember, because I asked Jeff Jarrett for the job because he was the management at the time running the place. And he said, yeah, you can become a producer. And I said, okay, can I shadow Dutch or something, you know, another producer, so that I kind of know what it entails. And he said yes, but I got thrown on a live pay-per-view my first time. It was the scariest thing ever. And I'm sure, I don't remember what happened, but I'm sure it was terrible. But, you know, you just grow and just like I was thrown to the wolves, like I said, in my WWE debut, it was kind of the same thing in that regard. But I had people supporting me, you know, people sitting next to me and, you know, helping me out and guiding me along the way. And now I also am in talent relations with D'Lo Brown. We're like work husband, work wife. So we're there for talent predominantly, right? So it's great. I have a relationship with the men as well as the women.
Thank you guys, as always, for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this compilation. If you did, go ahead and let me know. You can follow me on Twitter and or on Instagram @_ Denise Salcedo, and I'll see you on the next commercial break.
show. Bryan Alvarez here. Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of Wrestling Observer tonight. Look at these guys, just so full of joy to have pulled the string.
Well,
you know what's funny is they pull the string and I explode, and then they don't want me to yell so much.
is that what happens when your string gets pulled? You just explode all over the place?
Gee, quit yelling so much, Brian. Gee, too much caps lock. Gee, here's the other one I got. What about Braun? What about Braun Breaker? What does Braun Breaker have to do with Io Shirai?
I have no idea.
Because I said ones can't miss? Well, obviously Io Shirai is can't miss, except for Vince. So she's miss.
Yeah.
Literally, the storyline in NXT. Do you know what the storyline on the show was this past... you must know because you watch it, Mike.
Yeah.
Literally, the storyline is, if Cameron Grimes beats Braun Breaker's just going right to SummerSlam for a push. That's actually the story they're telling.
Yes.
So,
yes. It would be a good thing if you lose, because then you might be on Raw or SmackDown, or you might be on SummerSlam. These were words said by... And Cameron Grimes has got nothing left. It's the bottom of the barrel. If he can't win the NXT title, like, what's below NXT? I guess nothing. Dirt. You might as well be dead under the ground. That's what Cameron Grimes was actually kind of saying.
Actually, what's lower than NXT is being one of those security guys that hasn't made NXT TV yet. Gets beat up every day.
Well, hey, MJF was one of those one time. You saw how that worked out for him.
Well, you know, a lot of people have been.
Yeah. Everybody should be.
Hey, you know Money in the Bank's tomorrow, everybody?
Earn your keep. What's that?
Yeah, Money in the Bank's tomorrow. So I'm going to watch Money in the Bank, and tomorrow night, only for subscribers to WrestlingObserver.com, Dave and I will review the show, and then Vinny, Craig, and I will review it on Sunday, not Saturday, because Vinny's busy celebrating his anniversary on Saturday night.
Oh, nice.
And, I'll see you blokes on Tuesday, because there's no show Monday, because it's the 4th of July, and I'm going to be blowing stuff up. Like my body. And we'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.